is averages from grouped frequency tables. So if you haven't watched already the one that just says averages from frequency tables, that would be super useful to watch. And this is now adding the group. So it's a bit different. Working out the mean is a bit different, but everything else is the same. So again, quick recap. What do we know about this really long title? We have averages, and we know that the averages are... So a grouped frequency table is a table in which the categories kind of have more than one value that they could be. So you don't know the exact value that some of the data is taking. But that is confusing to say, so we're going to look at an example, and it's very similar to the last one, and it won't be too bad. So here we have our grouped frequency table, and we can see it's a grouped frequency table as opposed to just a frequency table because these have inequalities. There are no gaps in this data, and also because if you look at the frequency, we know we have 3 ants that are of length between 1 and 5 millimeters, but we don't know the exact length of those ants, we just know that they lie in that region, so that is why. So first let's start by finding the mode. And we know that mode, MO, is the most often. So again, just like with normal frequency tables, not group frequency tables, you look at the one that has the highest frequency, which as we can see here is 8. So that is going to be the category that the ant's length is between 10 and 20 millimeters. Now let's work out the range. So the range is always the biggest value it could take minus the smallest. Now we don't know the exact values that these ants have taken, like we don't know the exact length of the ants, but we know the biggest it could be is 50 millimeters, and then the smallest it could be is this one here, which is 1 millimeter. So the range is going to be 49 millimeters. Now let's have a look at doing the median. So the median we know is the middle value. So first we need to know what point that middle value lies. So we need to know the total number of ants we're looking at. So if we add up the frequencies, we're going to know the total number of ants we're working with. And the total, if you add up these, is 20. So we've got 20 ants. So to find the middle data point, we're looking at the 20 plus 1 divided by 2 data points. That is the 10.5 data points. But we don't have that because... So we're going to have to look at the 10th and the 11th data point and see which category they lie. So just like doing it for normal frequency tables that aren't grouped, you look at the first, so this has the first 3, because these are all in ascending order, because as you can see these get bigger and bigger, so they're all kind of sorted for us. So there's 3 ants at that size, okay. That doesn't include the 10th or the 11th data point. If we do 3 plus 5, that's 8, so in that, no, that doesn't include the 10th or the 11th data point, and then 8 plus 8 is 16, so from 8 to 16 we're going to have the 10th and the 11th data point, so they must be one of these 8 in here, and they must lie in that region there. So the 10th and the 11th one are one of the 8 in there because these are all put into ascending order, so you have to add them up until you find where it would be placed. So median can get a bit confusing. Now let's go on to working out the nasty mean. Mean, so mean. So for calculating the mean of the frequency tables that weren't grouped before, we did the number and we multiplied it by the frequency, and then we added those up and divided by the total number. So we can't just add the frequencies up. This, however, is a little bit different because we don't just have a specific number in this column. So if I have the 3 here, what do I multiply it by? Because I don't know its exact length. So what we do is we take the midpoints, because that seems like a pretty good guess of what the length could be. That seems the most fair way of doing it. So we take the midpoint of each category. So the midpoint of the first one is 5 plus 1 divided by 2, which is 3. Halfway between 5 and 10 is 7.5. Halfway between 10 and 20 is 15. Halfway between 20 and 30 is 25, and halfway between 30 and 50 is 40. So now we do exactly the same as what we did before for the non-grouped frequency tables, where you multiply the frequency, but this time you do it by the midpoint because you've created that single value to multiply it by, which seems fair enough because it's like halfway through. So you multiply those and do the same thing as before, so when you add them all up and divide by the total number, which in this case is 20. So 3 times 3 is 9. 5 times 7.5 is 37.5. 8 times 15 is 120. 3 times 25 is 75. And 1 times 40 is 40. So now you add those all up and you divide by the total number you had. So in this case that's 20. And you should get the answer 563 divided by 40, which is 14.075. So the mean length of an ant is 14.075 millimetres, and you might want to round that.